The main stories entering the round of Brazil were a large accident caused by Stan Rosenstretter on lap 2. He made an overly ambitious move on the inside of one of the courses, Enzo Medina, sending him up into his teammate Alonso Tosia, taking Anthony Evans and Franz Redlich hard into the wall. We don't have information on Medina or Tosia's medical condition, although I presume they're alright. Didn't look like anyone was too badly injured. Franz Redlich and Anthony Evans both walked away. And of course, the run of the bad luck for the Volpi Racing team, as Redlich and Duff both failed to qualify. Duff's car didn't even take the qualifying race start. Dan, off to you. Thank you, Lance. The Delano Pole Award went to Carlos Stanzello, the lone Brazilian driver in the field. The Brazilian crowd was very, very appreciative of Carlos Stanzello's achievement and cheered him on when he took the green flag and led the field into turns 1 and 2. However, you're going to see he didn't lead for much more than that, because here comes Ethan Everett in car number 11 right on the inside to take the lead coming into turn 3. Drew Eisenman went right underneath Everett coming out of turn 4, and Eisenman ended up leading the first lap of the race. He's Zelda Ashby and Lewis Kingston there, right on next to Everett. This is a 181 lap race, so Everett has more than enough time to shuffle through the field and get back to the front. Lewis Kingston and Danny Salvin are going to force 3 wide with Drew Eisenman coming in turn 1 and 2. And here comes Kingston in the 44, but Danny Salvin in the 91 is going to sweep under and take over the lead as they come out of turn 4, Called that turns 1 and 2 by accident. There goes Danny Salvin off into the lead, and Azuma Kazuyama into second. The 3 Cats of Engineering cars of Yulia Nasova, Woody Watts, and Vladimir Simonov were all painted black in respect of the March 29th victims of the Moscow bombing. Vladimir Simonov won the qualifying race, and it was arguably the team's most competitive outing so far, but Simonov's currently running last, and that's not doing him much good. The first caution was at the beginning of lap 3. Carlos Stanzello's day is not going to get much better. An overambitious move by Cyrus Laterza in the black 74 gets into the back of Yulia Nasova, triggering a big incident in the back straightaway. Lots of cars involved. Tom Delgado, Tony Durbin looks to get through. Packer Carroll hammers into the back of Alan Hodges and Ian Cooper. Gonna have another look at this. There's Craig Janser in the 69. Alan Hodges with some damage. There's Tom Delgado in the 837. We're gonna see what happens then. Looks like he got a nudge from Nasova. Just a little rubbing. And it looks like a little bump from Cyrus Laterza into the back of the 7 car. There's Jacques Bouvier in the 59 going around. Looks like contact between the 7 and the 74 on board with Zelda Ashby. Gonna see it just begin to trigger off. Or it looks like the 7 car may have gotten pushed up the track a little bit. And Ashby goes into the wall just a little bit, but other than that, looks like the 55 car is gonna get through with no damage. Gonna have a look to see in just a second here how Packer Carroll decides to avoid this incident. You see the 59 car Bouvier pulling into the pits. Here's Packer Carroll from Majestic Motorsports, the 4th car, the part-time entry. Big wreck in front of him. Yeah, because accelerating is going to help you avoid an incident. Packer Carroll probably is not going to earn too many friends after that. He's had a bit of a problem with tearing up other people's cars in qualifying races in the past. That's not going to help his case much. Here's Drew Eisenman in the 31. Looks like everything just goes to madness right there. And Eisenman, who probably wanted to play it conservatively, just got bitten by his own tactics there. Ethan Everett, Drew Eisenman, and Arto Kekkonen all had very slow pit stops and wound up off the lead lap. Ethan Everett, the last car on the lead lap, putting Marcus Leonard in the 999 car in the lead of the race. There goes Arto to get his lap back, but there goes Kurt Pliskin, hunting down the lead of the race away from his teammate. Power Steering Incorporated's longtime driver Pliskin going to go back and hunt down the 14 car of Arto Kekkonen and put the fin in his rearview mirror as they come into turns 1 and 2. Danny Salvin sitting there in second, Cyrus Laterza in third, and that's Leonard Roderick in that orange car back there as well. Roderick having a strong beginning of the race. Craig Janser in car number 69. This is the J.D. McDermott entry. This is one of the cars running for the Independence Trophy. Janser making his first start of the year. He didn't make too many starts last season, even though he ran full-time, and didn't do particularly well in any of them. See, he's forcing 5 wide here. Craig Janser doing a very good job here on some of these shorter, high-speed tracks. But so far, he doesn't look like he's doing that bad for someone who's really not shown or impressed much in his Master Cup Series career. Colin Evans is another driver running for the Independence Trophy that's in the field. He is, well, known for tearing up a lot of cars, but so far he has regained a lot of the respect that he lost in the past 2 years. Here you see Raul Rainsford diving into the pits in front of everybody, but Colin Evans in this 30 car, looks like he's just logging laps and trying to earn the respect of his competitors, which, at the moment, he appears to be doing quite well. Yamino Tenchi and Stephanie McGlynn running with him right at the moment. Cyrus Laterza in car number 74 is making his second start of the year. He is currently leading the point standings for the Independence Trophy on the back of his brilliant top 5 finish in Japan. Laterza and the 74 team didn't do too well last year either. This is the longest running team in the TM Master Cup Series. The Mitchell & Sons 74 team has been running for almost 57 years. Hard to believe that. Laterza's team are looking to regain some glory even on a reduced budget. Vladimir Simonov's day would not go very well. On lap 10, the gearbox expires on car 232 and just brings an end to what was a very, very bad race for Simonov. He'd be one of the first cars out of the race, and after winning the qualifying race, this was certainly a huge disappointment for Simonov, who had shown so much promise in the lead-up to this race. However, in qualifying, he didn't do so well, and of course, the gearbox ends his day. John Parker Jr. in car number 53. This is the 4th of the Volpe Racing Team cars, and this is the part-time effort. This car's run sometimes as the number 51 with Italian Luca Scalora driving. Of course, Scalora hasn't qualified for a race yet. Parker Jr. does very well on high-speed tracks such as the Autodromo Daniel Estevam, which we are at this week, and he's running very well here. He got a top 5 last year, and he's on pace to repeat that effort. Parker Jr. will be running at most of the super speedways, and he hopes to get himself a full-time drive sometime soon. Here's Gaspar de Souza, the 4th car for the Hodges-Walter team. He wasn't even supposed to be on the entry list, but they decided to bring the 169 car and de Souza, and, well, he's showing that that was a good idea. He's running very strongly, even though he's losing several positions here in this shot. He has run very well over the course of the weekend. The young Portuguese driver made his debut in the Master Cup Series at Decatur last year and was one of the first cars to crash out. But so far, he is doing a very good job, and he's earning the respect of his competitors. Well, maybe not Ethan Everett right there, but he's earning the respect of most of his competitors so far this week. Former GRL champion Stuart Sandoval is giving the Corsa team a very strong run in a week when 2 of the 3 factory courses failed to qualify. Of course, both of those DNQs for Corsa, Alonso Tosia and Enzo Medina, due to a very large crash caused by Stan Rosenstretter in the qualifying race. Of course, Rosenstretter and Sandoval are 2 of STS's big factory drivers, and since STS owns Corsa, it's not much of a surprise why Sandoval ended up at the Corsa outfit. Danny Savin takes over the lead at the end of that shot. Here's Tony Durbin. Just a couple laps after that, Danny Savin has lost the lead to Leonard Roderick. Tony Durbin's going to decide that he wants the lead for himself, and he doesn't want the 4-time and defending Master Cup champion Roderick to be spoiling his party. Durbin pulls out into the lead, and for probably the best oval driver on the Master Cup Series circuit, seeing him out front made other people worry that Durbin might dominate this race. Packer Carroll in the 71 car is going to demonstrate what it's like to be a backmarker. He pinches Durbin a little bit, pinches Marcus Leonard a little bit. Leonard was one of the drivers that Tony Durbin said that he was most worried about. There's Packer Carroll holding up John Parker Jr. There's Leonard Roderick in the 4. Just looks like he's in a bad spot, but Packer Carroll doing a very good job as a backmarker and letting almost everyone by without a problem. Roderick's getting held up, but you really can't avoid doing that to at least one car on a track like this. Here's Raul Rainsford in car number 39. She's not on the lead lap. She pitted after lap 9 of the race. She's about as fast as the leaders, but it appears that the flat tire or whatever it was that was going wrong with the 99 car is causing her to be a little bit annoying in traffic. Cyrus Laterza not too impressed, runs her a little wide. Kind of an Ian Cooper-esque move there. There's Kurt Pliskin in the 16, and younger sister Alexis not too pleased at the moment, apparently, with Raul. Raul Rainsford has a bit of a habit of being a roadblock, and she also has a habit of causing cautions, as she did on lap 44. Danny Savin in car number 91, the Leela Corsair, is going to be minding his own business when all of a sudden he gets a little tap from behind from Rachel Rainsford. Savin hooks left, hard into the inside wall, and car number 91 slides back up the track, and here comes the rest of the field. Oh, Gary Edwards and Yulia Nasova just miss him by about a foot or two. Close call for Savin. A heavy shot into the inside wall at about 160 miles an hour. Back up the track. Oh, just missed by Tom Delgado. And then there goes the rest of the field. Savin would climb out of the car, and he would be released after the infield care center. Now here's the big shunt. Rachel Rainsford hard into the wall, goes flying up the wall. Marcus Leonard, Dale Roswell involved. Heavy hit for car number 99 into the outside wall. Gonna go on board with Dale Roswell here, the oldest driver in the field. The oldest driver in the field at 63. And this is most of the rescue crews were concerned about getting Roswell out of the car. Now she's gonna go up, hit Marcus Leonard and Dale Roswell. There's another car in there. I couldn't exactly tell who it was. It might have been Sandoval. Now here's another look at it. There's Rachel Rainsford, gets into the 91. She tries to slow herself down by hitting the wall, but other than that, it doesn't look like she used any brakes at all. That other car was La Terza. That was the 74, not the 05. And the officials weren't too impressed with this move by Rachel Rainsford because it didn't look like she even used the brakes, which is probably crucial in order to avoid incidents like that. Stuart Sandoval actually restarted as the race leader. Mistake of mine to say that he was in the incident, apparently. Stephanie McGlynn, the last car in the lead lap, holds up the outside line, and there's Zelda Ashby. Big move on the inside, jumps from about 8th to 3rd before they even get into turn 1. We're going to go on board the 55 car and watch the restart from Ashby. Here's how to make a restart for all future racing drivers. All the way down on the bottom, dives in, almost gets pinched out by Alan Hodges, but Ashby keeps the line, holds it, and gets around the 13 car. Very good restart by Zelda Ashby. And she's still going to keep making moves. There she goes around Arto Kekkonen in the 14 car. She's going to go around. The only car in front of her at this point is going to be the 11 car. Everett. But Adrian Devereaux reigns on her parade. As much as Ashby's good restart wasn't enough to outrun the Frenchman, who recently got his first Master Cup Series win, and has recently said that he thinks he can win the championship in his rookie year. He managed to do the feat in the RROL. We're going to see if he's able to do it here in the Cup Series. Ethan Everett, car number 11, is going to pull away a little bit while the rest of the field is busily squabbling amongst themselves. Everett was the preseason favorite for the Rookie of the Year. However, his season has started a little slower than he would have expected. And as much of his detractors would say, he might have been pushed into that car a little too early. Caution 3 on lap 51. Lewis Kingston in car number 44 is going to do exactly what Rachel Rainsford didn't after being spun into the inside, or rather moving low. Here goes Kingston into the wall. He hits the wall, but he uses the brakes, meaning that when he came back up into the rest of the field after getting a tap from Tony Durbin, he didn't go flying up and possibly send debris flying into the stands. Being that the grandstands here at the Autodromo Daniel Estevem are so far away from the track and from that part of the track, it's unlikely that any debris actually landed that far from when the 99 car hit the wall there. But you can see the big difference from when Lewis Kingston hit the wall and from when Rachel Rainsford hit the wall. Brakes. Wonderful things when used. John Parker Jr. restarted as the race leader. Ethan Everett's pit crew, again, an abysmal stop. Even though Everett got his lap back, they put him right back the tail end of the lead lap. Parker Jr. gets a good jump off the line, ahead of Arto Kekkonen, who, by the way, is still a lap down. There's Alan Hodges and Azuma Kazuyama, both of which having respectable runs. The racing gods were smiling on Ethan Everett because they gave him another caution on lap 56. Speaking of Azuma Kazuyama, he is going to be the cause of this next yellow. However, this one appears to be more of a brain fart on the part of a spotter. Oh, looks like Kazuyama thought he was clear on the inside, made a move to go down into the pits, but his teammate Tom Delgado was right there along with Scott Stoidler in the 23 car. A little bit of an oops here. And you can understand why the spotter would say that he was clear down there, but just barely not enough room. Collects Tom Delgado and Scott Stoidler. Team boss Takumi Katashima can't be too happy about that. There's Colin Evans and Packer Carroll moving through the middle and dropping their way through the field. We're going to see Kazuyama start slowing. Can't really enter the pits from the outside lane anyway, but you can almost justify making that move because it looked like he had enough, but just kind of closed up on him at the last second. A bit of a dodgy call there, but just one of those unfortunate racing incidents, it would appear. Ethan Everett's pit crew continues to disappoint as they threw away an opportunity to get him back on the lead lap solidly. John Parker Jr. in the 53 car is in the lead, and Ethan Everett had to be mad at his pit crew after today because they had blown about 2 or 3 chances to get him back on the lead lap. However, Ethan Everett must have been saying all of his good luck charms, because guess what happened? Just a couple of laps after the restart, even though Parker Jr. puts him a lap down, he gets a caution. Lap 63. Unlike the past few yellows, this one isn't going to take anybody out of the race. Kurt Pliskin in car number 16 is going to do exactly what Kazuyama did, dive into the pits from the outside, although in this case it looked like there was no way he was going to make it out of the pits without running into somebody. He runs into Craig Yonser, spins his car out, drives it away. Scott Bates in car number 88 is going to be leading the race on the restart. You're going to see Ethan Everett's on the inside lane this time because he is now 1 lap down. However, that's going to help Everett as he's going to pull away along with Drew Eisenman, who is still a lap down after sustaining damage early in the race. Colin Evans in the 30 car is going to try to get out of people's way, but since he received damage earlier, he is well off the pace. Welshman Alan Hodges is going to assume the lead of the race with Arla champion Chris Johans in the 24 right behind him. Johans is going to make a move on Hodges, coming into turn 3. Hodges is going to try to block. Johans is already there. Hodges moves out of the way in order to prevent a wreck. And Hodges is going to give up first to Chris Johans in car 24. And here comes Johans' well, sort of teammate. Teammate if you count motor companies. Tremwell, of course, owned by SAR. And Chris Johans and Tony Durbin racing side by side here. The Tremwell Knight and the SAR Tyrant both owned by the same parent company. Hence why I called them sort of teammates. However, here in the racing world, they're not teammates, and Tony Durbin dispatches Chris Johans and doesn't let him lead a bunch of laps. Scott Bates assumes second place, Leon Kennison third, and that's Gaspar de Souza in the green car. The green and red car. Very, very impressive run by the young Portuguese driver. Ethan Everett gets behind Tony Durbin and then begins to do the work of a teammate, holding up people behind you. Ethan Everett might be a bit of a questionable tactic here, but it is helping Tony Durbin lead the race a little bit. And it's not really earning Everett too many kudos at the moment, however. Here is Chris Johans in car number 24. In this shot, he's just getting around Gaspar de Souza to take over the second spot. Should probably dwell on Johans for a minute here. He's been known in the past for tearing up several cars. In fact, last season, one of his nicknames was Crash Johans. It appears that he's finally shook that nickname off, and he's finally got a hold of a TM Master Cup Series car. And now that it appears that he's gotten a hold of a car, and a competitive one, looks like he's finally going to have a couple of the runs that we expected him to have 2 years ago after winning 2 Arla championships quite handily. Woody Watts was giving the Katsiv team a very good run and some amazing passes, such as that one right there when 4 wide was almost not going to work. Woody Watts, the former RROL champion, is also beginning to live up to his potential. Now he's going around Tony Durbin, and now a Katsiv, a car that a lot of people thought was going to be 2 to 3 seconds off the pace, is going to lead the race. How about that? Woody Watts in the Katsiv leads the race in an amazing display of driving there. Alexis Rainsford, as is her usual, has begun to tap the race on the shoulder and say, "Hey, what about me? Don't forget about me," and she's just beginning to make that point noted as she's beginning to charge her way to the front of the field. Oh yeah, so is Leonid Roderick in the 4 car that we just went by. Can't forget either of them when the end of a race comes near. Getting around her teammate there is Woody Watts in the 041. Now, Alexis Rainsford and her old friend Tony Durbin are going to scrap off here for the lead of the race. Rainsford goes on the inside and is going to move around the 33 car. Tony Durbin does not want a big wreck on a high-speed track such as this. We haven't gotten word on Alexis's older sister Rachel's medical condition as of yet. Alexis Rainsford pulls into the lead of the race and away from Tony Durbin. However, it's not long before the more powerful SAR Eagle is going to be able to get on the inside of the better handling but somewhat underpowered Volpe VCO2, and Tony Durbin is going to assume the lead of the race away from Alexis Rainsford. You see another lapped car up there. That's going to be a little bit of a difficulty for Durbin to negotiate. Woody Watts in car 041 is going to be right there as Tony Durbin just shows his appreciation for Kurt Pliskin by almost turning the 16 car around. However, Woody Watts is going to have another lapped car behind him to worry about. Ethan Everett in the 11. Everett's been doing a hatchet job with the leaders right now, but he's competitive enough to where you really can't argue that he's getting in the way, because he has every right to be there if he is truly that fast. Arto Kekkonen in the 14 car is currently running in second place. There's Ethan Everett again, just to make life a very happy just to make life miserable for Arto at the moment. The young Finnish driver has gotten off very quietly to the start of his 2010 season. He had a very good run in Japan, finishing second. However, here he is in Brazil, repeating that effort. Appears that Arto's gotten a hold of the oval tracks after struggling on them last season. Here comes Scott Bates on the 88 on the inside. Whenever there's close, tight quarters, you want to bet on Scott Bates to have a very good run, as he is here in Brazil. Grand Detour Super Speedways are tracks where Scott Bates and Arto Kekkonen have both excelled. Arto Kekkonen pitted on lap 108 under green along with most of the rest of the leaders. Gasper de Souza right there. Chris Johans pitted a lap before him in the 24 car. Not all green flag pit stops you're going to see go according to plan. Yumino Tenchi, who'd been running at the back of the leaders, is going to get cut off by Stuart Sandoval in the 05 and forced into the Corsa pits. Don't think the Star Team Yamamoto was too happy about that. At the end of the pit stop, Scott Bates had a very commanding lead, but he had Leonard Roderick right alongside him, and Roderick was a lap down. Tony Durbin was running second, Zelda Ashby in third, John Parker Jr. in the 53 car was running in fourth, Alan Hodges in fifth, and then Woody Watts ran in the sixth position. Scott Bates, however, was running alongside Leonard Roderick, and Roderick had a very fast car, perhaps one of the fastest on the track. However, an early pit stop blunder from the 4 team put him almost exactly a lap down, and now Roderick and Bates are duking it out while Tony Durbin is catching him up. And here comes Tony Durbin right on the inside of Scott Bates in the 88 car, and Durbin will take the lead away from Bates. However, if you thought that Scott Bates was just going to meekly accept that he'd been passed by Tony Durbin, then you're quite mistaken. On board with Scott Bates as he's going to get around Tony Durbin one lap later. And of course, Tony Durbin wanted to continue leading the race, but he also had his teammate Ethan Everett to kind of run in there and help him out a little bit in case he needed to get the lead back. Of course, he also had to negotiate Zelda Ashby in the 55 and John Parker Jr. in the 53 in order to do that if he wanted to lead the race ever again. Looking back at Zelda Ashby, it's quite clear that Tony Durbin does want to lead the race again, and he's going to use the draft from teammate Everett in order to do that. Everett moves high in order to block Scott Bates. Bates jumps back a little bit and decides to make an early green flag pit stop, the final pit stop of the race on lap 161. Tony Durbin pitted with Everett and just about all the lapped cars. Durbin stayed out an extra lap, and that proved to be the big advantage because that put him way ahead of Scott Bates, John Parker Jr., and Zelda Ashby on the final stretch of the race. Parker Jr., Ashby, and Bates would be running faster since they had draft off each other, but racing such as this cut away too much speed, and one thing they ran out of was time and to catch Tony Durbin, who cruised on to take his first TM Master Cup Series win of 2010, a thrilling battle of pit crews here in Brazil. Tony Durbin takes a well-deserved win here in Brazil. Zelda Ashby in second, and John Parker Jr. completes the podium. Scott Bates in car number 88 has a fantastic run. The Oklahoma driver finishes 4th, and Alan Hodges, the Welshman, rounds up the top 5. Woody Watts gives Katsev its best finish to date. Gaspar de Souza, the best finish for a Portuguese driver, in 7th. Arto Käkkinen in 8th. Leon Kennison always does well on short tracks. And Adrien Devereaux, the Frenchman, backs up his win in Australia with a top 10 in Brazil. And here are the top 10 in the point standings. After 3 rounds on the championship, Tony Durbin is the only driver to be in the top 5 all 3 races, so naturally he winds up with the points lead. Alexis Rainsford dropped through the field after a very bad pit stop at the end of the race. Drew Eisenman didn't have a very good run all day, but still managed to finish the race, so he winds up 3rd. Arto Käkkinen in 4th. Alan Hodges in 5th. Adrien Devereaux still 6th in the points, even though he probably should be scored in 5th ahead of Alan Hodges, his team owner, because they are tied in points, and Devereaux has a win, whereas Alan Hodges does not. Scott Bates is currently listed 7th in the standings, 76 out of 1st. Marcus Leonard sits 8th after a very strong beginning of the season for the Canadian. Stuart Sandoval, the former GRL champion, in 9th, and Yamino Tenchi continues to impress in 10th. And here's 11th through 20. Leonid Roderick and Matt Taylor, former teammates at Flash Racing, sit 11th and 12th, well, tied for 11th. Juliana Silva sits 13th for Katsev after a very consistent run of string of finishes early in the season. Zelda Ashby, a strong opening of the season for Power Steering Incorporated. Scott Stoidler in the 23 car, the leading Tremwell in the points. We expected them to be a little higher than this. Woody Watts in the second Katsev in 16th. Azuma Kazuyama doing very well so far, tied with Lewis Kingston of Flash Racing. Leon Kennison for Ocean Team STS, and Ethan Everett's slow start to the season shows he is 20th in the standings. And now let's have a look at the Independence Trophy standings. Cyrus Laterza pads his lead, though not by too much. Thomas Duke still sits 2nd. Colin Evans and Craig Younster are the new additions, 3rd and 4th. Dan Klesel drops down to 5th, and of course Palmer Stiles, Leigh Gruel, and Ali Riggs have all DNQ'd for 1 race, and they have 0. Justin Brooks has failed to qualify twice.